So, Tom, we're live. So, hello, everybody. Good morning or good evening, and welcome to a very special AMA with none other than Tom Anderson. So, he's the man who needs no introduction in the LitCraft and DevvE community. So, Tom, how you doing?
Good. Thank you, Steve. Thanks for setting it all up. As we get started, I'll just point out Steve is awesome. He's been great on our community and now doing stuff with Forever. And so really glad we got him involved with us. So
Well, we can end the stream there, can't we?
yeah, I think we're
Appreciate it,
good.
Tom. Thanks. Obviously, as I say to you, I'm walking in your footsteps too as well. So it's really great to be on this journey with you. So really great to be talking with you today, and we're going to be spending the next little while talking about LitCraft, talking about Fias, and answering some of the questions that you, the community, might have. But also, Tom, you've brought us some tasty little teasers and spoilers for some upcoming game modes in Nysperience. So in a moment, Tom's going to be sharing his screen and sort of spilling all the beans for the LitCraft community who might be excited about learning about some new things. So stay tuned for all of that. Um, but before we get into all of that stuff around, you might have seen me in the LitCraft forums. I am Mango Steve. I'm not actually a Mango, but I have been playing LitCraft since the early beta days. So now, as Tom mentioned, I've joined the Forever Association or the DevvE team, which is also along for the journey here with Tom. So just to clarify,
Where does Mango come from?
honestly, it was right when you remember when Gmail became a first thing, and you were a kid, and you've got to think of what's something funny and hilarious on the spot, and just something about Mango that stuck with me, and it stuck as a moniker for the last 20 plus years. So
Great. Yeah.
no
Well,
reason
mangoes are
why.
good. So there you go.
Absolutely. Look, and so just to clarify, so if those you might be new to LitCraft, Forever, Fias, and DevvE, the Forever Association is the token issuer of the Fias tokens. So we engage in activities to sort of promote and the ecosystem development around the cryptocurrency itself. And we explore all the new ways that Fias can be integrated in and into future utilities as well. So Tom and his team is the LitCraft Nysperience developer. They develop the nuts and the bolts of the system. Obviously, the DevvX blockchain that this all runs on, and that's a foundational aspect to the digital financial ecosystem. We've got that right there, Tom.
Yeah, that all sounds like a great overview. Good.
Yeah. So with that in mind, any questions sort of relating to Fias, I'll be fielding. Anything LitCraft, Tom will be. So on that note, Tom, can you please give us an introduction on yourself and LitCraft Nysperience for those who are joining us for the first time?
Sure. Yeah. So, for anybody that's kind of new, I'll start at a little bit of a more basic level. So LitCraft itself is a sci-fi fantasy universe that really was kind of a passion project. I've been developing for really more than 10 years. It kind of started originally with a book that I wrote with a friend of mine, John Miller, and we built or we created this book together. It was really a very strong joint project together. The book is called Grant Began, the Finder's Code, and so as I was kind of part of my role in it was creating the background, and as I was kind of creating a lot of the lore and canon, for the LitCraft universe, I took a lot of kind of old metaphysical concepts and things that I've been actually, working and thinking on for decades, even, most of my life, including, kind of, again, metaphysical concepts that, what's the nature of reality and things. Put that into the magic system, tried to create a very robust, rich world with characters and creatures and places, locations, governments, and again a pretty robust magic system, all of those types of things. And then also a lot of my career is in the video game industry, so I took an old game that I had created also before DevvE, um, that had kind of a Minecraft type of beginning type of interaction. And it had some other games like a game where you slide now pickaxes to try to grow them up, and a red gems game where you place things in the right way. Both are kind of strategy, casual games. I had created a game that had those components, brought it, into a modern engine, mixed it in with the LitCraft lore, and then built that game on top of the DevvX blockchain. because we needed something to test the speed and throughput of the DevvX blockchain. You know, the DevvX is arguably the fastest blockchain in the world, can process millions of transactions per second. Very inexpensive compared to Ethereum. You know, 110 millionth the Ethereum cost, 1.3 billionth the energy usage of Bitcoin. So really pretty amazing technology. We needed a test bed to drive it. So took the LitCraft lore, the old game, put those together, built them on top of the blockchain. Then the blockchain gaming space started to explode, and we had a ready to go project. So spun it out into its own project and its own product, and we've been building and growing it since then. So.
Yeah, I think you're up to, there's over 20 different games now in the ecosystem, isn't there?
Yeah, yeah. So it's got dozens of games. I think, one of the things I always like to point out when I'm doing an AMA or an interview or whatever is, we're not really in the scheme of things, in my view, building just a game. We're building a financial ecosystem. That's the main thing, right? And so the idea that, the overall philosophy of Nysperience is that anybody should be able to come in and play games that they like, right? And play whatever genres they like, play whatever specific types of interactions they like, focus on what they like to in games, and then have the value that they create in the game be applicable within this overall financial ecosystem. So we have this concept of businesses where people can build businesses and they use components from different games. Like the solitaire game creates a token called Legiscent, which represents legal points, in the analogy of the business. We have Obstinate, which represents like marketing points, things like that. You can play, Sudoku, which is an accounting kind of feel of a game to get accounting points, things like that. And so there's a whole bunch of different games, lots of different ways to play, lots of ways to interact. Casual games, strategic games, solitaire and Sudoku, to more just kind of simple tap games. To there's a few genre that is referred to as rage games that are very hard but fulfilling when you finally get them. And the plan, we should probably talk about this a little bit, but the plan to bring in more licensed games into this ecosystem. So that's the main thing we're building then, is this digital financial ecosystem where all of the different types of assets that you can create and all the different types of activities that one can do all meld into one financial ecosystem that just has a lot of flow and interactions across a lot of disparate people and activities.
Yeah, look, and that's exactly what I like about the economic design of Nysperience. That it's really this sort of bottoms up approach where everybody can come in, play whatever game they like, and create and build their own value, and it runs this sort of digital supply chain that mimics sort of the real world elements. Do you have any more sort of insights into how the Nysperience economy might different from what people might be coming from the Web3 gaming side of things? How is an experience economy different to, say, something like Axie Infinity?
Yeah. So we really focused on a much more robust financial ecosystem. So if you look at all of the games that sit on top of the digital financial ecosystem, the DFE is what we call it internally. It's almost like the games are kind of the tip of the iceberg, and this financial design is the iceberg itself, the majority, that's underwater that you can't see. And so building this platform where you can bring in more and more games, more and more activities, that's the thing that I think is going to be, really a dramatic change to what else is out there in the traditional game industry or even in the blockchain gaming industry. Axie Infinity has SLP, which you use to create axes, and then they have their token, which is kind of separate from the game, but it's one game, one type of interface. And it doesn't really interact across other games. Then you even have like metaverse types applications, and they might have more activities, but it's not quite, I think, as robust as the DFE is in bringing back all these bringing together all of these disparate concepts. So I'm proud of what we've been building, and I think probably the closest thing is Roblox. I think that's a good example that's similar to what we've done, because they have one kind of token, Robux, that's consistent across all the different activities, and then different activities you can go into that activity and have your own kind of interactions, earn points for building a building in one of their games, things like that. But I think we're taking even that another step further, where you really are emphasizing having cross game, cross platform, cross interaction types of tokens that that create a lot of flow in an ecosystem. So
Mhm. Yeah, look, and I do think sort of one of the best ways to attract new players from this ecosystem design is going to be proving out that earning and owning model, that and doing that within Nysperience. So doing it that way is going to create a bit more of a natural growth of users that's going to sustain the game in the long term. So if you can get those players to feel like they own the game, get them to feel like they own the assets they're creating, get them to feel like they're part of the revenue that's being generated by within the ecosystem, that's going to be a very compelling system for user acquisition. Um,
yeah,
so
that's the whole point. If you're going to make a play to own or play to earn game, you have to design it from the ground up with that philosophy.
yeah,
And so a traditional game has a game publisher. That's the owner of the game. The game publisher maybe has a developer that's separate from the publisher, or if it's a small entity, it's kind of the same, group. But bigger games have publishers and developers, and the publisher owns the game. The publisher sells the assets in the game, and the publisher makes the upside. And if the game's a hit, the publisher makes all its money. In a play to own game or a play to earn game, you have to design it where the players are getting the lion's share of the upside and the revenue. And it is a different mentality and a model and a different way to design a game. And I've really enjoyed embracing that and building the game around kind of that overall fundamental premise. And so I think it's going to be one of the biggest upcoming categories across all of gaming. Again, not just blockchain gaming, but in general, once people have gotten used to playing a game and they own the assets in the game and they can sell them on a marketplace or whatever, compare that to a game that's not, nobody's ever going to go back to that old way. If you spent 9 months playing a game, you earn a big, powerful, expensive, race car that you can race with. Compare that to doing the same 9 months in another AAA racing game where you don't own the car. Like nobody's going to do that. So I feel like soon this is going to become table stakes. This is going to be a
absolutely.
massive category in the entire video game industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I guess the upside to that for me as well would be from the game developer's perspective as well. What new tools do they have to create games that we haven't even thought of yet that run on that fundamental premise as well? So that's really exciting. Um,
Yeah.
so
Our businesses in Nysperience, our businesses concept is a game, really. It's one of the games, but I've not seen something like it, elsewhere.
mhm.
And it's a lot of the glue that holds a lot of the other interactions together. And then similarly the crafting side of things. There's plenty of games that have crafting, but I think maybe not quite as many games that have crafting components coming from such a wide variety of interactions. So, some of the innovation in building the platform and how you hold all the different types of interactions together, is part of what's innovative in what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And so something that you sort of touched on before, about sort of integrations into new games and how you can take assets from one game to another. So look, the gaming industry is in a little bit of a strange state at the moment. So you've got a bit of consolidation and contraction happening around the AAA studios, obviously after the big boom after COVID when they expanded, and then we're also seeing now a big boom on the indie developer sort of side of things as well. So I guess a question for you with my Forever Association hat on is, where do you see the best avenues for growth? Maybe more from a game design perspective within the LitCraft metaverse. Should we be focusing on AAA publishers who are looking for a way to monetize at a low capex expense, or should we go for the indies, or should we stick to the mobile? What's your sort of perspective on that?
I think there's different opportunities. Some of it is opportunity based, meaning like you have a contact that knows somebody at a publisher that starts a conversation. You start talking to them, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're interested in licensing this game, right?" So and it came from a contact. I think other than kind of those particular opportunity based interactions, I think more broadly, I think there is a lot of opportunity in the casual space, and interacting on mobile phones and I mean there's so many hundreds of millions of players playing so many kind of casual small games like solitaire. I mean one of the I think the biggest game of all time is Tetris, just a very kind of simple little game. So there's lots of room to bring in people who love those games and let them earn based on it and have a different experience. Like why would you play, Netflix has a library of games. Why would you play their solitaire versus, Apple's library, a solitaire game versus ours? You would play ours because solitaire is solitaire. It's not that complex a game, but you play ours and then you earn based on it. And I think we can capture more people, and then that starts a snowball that can really snowball down the hill. I think there's also good opportunity to bring in bigger games like FPS games, first person shooter, big racing games, sports games, and so I think there is good opportunity to license those kinds of games too. I think the higher end games become a little bit harder to license in until the concept matures a little bit more, because I think there's a little bit more risk around the brands and some of the initial pushback, in the video game
Certainly.
space. So actually, that's part of where I think our licensing model comes in. So let me kind of take you through the licensing model, because
Absolutely.
this is the heart of kind of what you're asking, and this is also the thing I would say most excited about, kind of in where we're headed right now. And so just a bit of background that I think kind of sets the stage. I had a lot of my career in the video game industry, like I described. So I had previously a robotics company, and we created robot that took high-end robots that cost tens of thousands of dollars, manufactured them in China, got it down to a consumer price point. It was like $100 FOB US. So we could get these high fidelity robots that added a sense of touch as controllers, on a computer game. We got those controllers, down to a consumer price point and started looking to get into mass market applications. And the challenge you run into if you have a hardware, design like that, is if you want to get into consumer applications, you need software to drive it. And video games seem like a great first area. But the problem was when we would talk to game publishers, they would say, "What's your installed base?" And we would say, "Not that big, but we have big plans." And they'd say, "Well, come back and talk to us when you have a big installed base, when you have 1 million units out." So you have this big chicken egg. How do you get 1 million units out if you don't have a bunch of big games? How do you get a bunch of big games if you don't have 1 million units out, right? And so, like any entrepreneur, I wish I knew then what I know now. It took me a couple years to develop that licensing model, but over time got to a point where I worked from small to medium to big publishers and licensed games all the way up to Tiger Woods Golf, Madden Football, NBA Live, Need for Speed, Mass Effect, Battlefield series, Half-Life 2, Left 4 Dead, Team Fortress 2, Dirt, Grid. Some of those are some of the biggest game franchises of all time, and we licensed those games, got full source access to them, and then we published over 100 games ourselves, and publish them for our platform. So I don't know of anybody else in the world that's done that. I don't know of anybody else that's licensed all the way up to kind of that level of game. And there was a little closet in Albuquerque, New Mexico, that had source code to all of these big publishers' games all sitting in the same spot. It was pretty neat. And so it was a good model. I learned a lot. I learned how to talk to publishers. So now, fast forward, we're coming out with the Nysperience game. We're building this digital financial ecosystem, and you're seeing that the biggest problem in the whole blockchain gaming space is just a lack of quality games. And I'd also would add that the entities out there that are trying to build AAA level games from scratch, that's very hard. It's kind of infamous in the traditional gaming space how hard that is. And so I think there's going to be a lot of graveyard of blockchain companies that put a lot of money into
Suicide
games.
Squad. We can say
Yeah,
no more.
it's just yeah, so
Yeah.
right, it's just so hard to come out. So I mean, that's the classic thing is you take a big brand and a movie publisher or a movie producer, and take IP and throw a bunch of money, and it often fails. That's it's coming out with new games is very, very hard. So what we're looking to do then is take that licensing model that I learned in my first business, license games similar to what I did before, move it over to a new platform. In this case, it's to a blockchain platform where the assets in your inventory or whatever you earn go into the blockchain. Take proven content and reduce almost all of the risk, the main risk that goes with developing your own games. We're taking games that already are proven that have a lot of users, and then moving them into our ecosystem. And so it's more and more that people can play whatever games they want, play, so one of the things that's exciting is we have a particular set of games that we're looking to license. We're in great negotiations on it. there's a MOBA game, a fighting game, RPG. There's a number of games that cover genres that we don't already have covered, and these games that we're looking to license. So there's no promises on it, so I don't want to overstate it, but I feel like I can take what I've learned before in my licensing in one way or another, license games, whether it's these or someone else. But these particular games have had over 400 million downloads that we're looking to license. So I mean, geez, if we license that library, start bringing those in, have a whole bunch of people that love the games that want their games back. They haven't been off the market for very long, so they're modern, great graphics games that have had, again, hundreds of millions of users. Start bringing that into our digital financial ecosystem. I mean, that's huge, and that's very positive, not just for the LitCraft and the digital financial ecosystem, but also DevvE as a whole, right? Because it's a great example where you have potentially millions of people playing on and using the DevvX blockchain. You could have DevvE as a payment mechanism, paying for all of these different types of assets. It's the type of thing that I think really can move the needle for everything that we're doing.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And you really, you're saying is we have the ability to take the ecosystem from one to these inception steps now, and really sort of spin it up to 10 very quickly. And obviously a big reason that is possible with the digital financial ecosystem is obviously the technology that's underlying it. So obviously, you used to have access to source code to games where you could just which I imagine in this case you could just plug in straight into a game inventory with the DevvX API, and all of a sudden you've got a Web3 game in almost a trivial amount of time. Is that sort of how
Yep.
you imagine the expansion sort of happening?
That's exactly it. So we probably will only touch like 1% of the code base, if we port a game, and all the other work, all the level design, all the graphics, the characters, the animations, the 3D models, the 3D environments, all of that, stays the same. And so it's a pretty inexpensive way again to get tried and true proven content into the digital financial ecosystem, but really is on the other hand, a fundamentally improved and new type of interaction. You play a game that you used to love, now you play a game that you love, that you earn items that you could sell in the glass block marketplace, for example. So that's a really compelling concept. The other thing, another of the aspects that I feel most excited about, this is also very significant for me, is where we've been looking at our advertising. And so we've been over the past, it's been a while. We've been honing this for us. So it's been over 9 months that we've been building our own ads. We found a great agency that makes viral ads. They've been doing a really nice job. And so we've been putting out these ads, A/B testing them, getting them out, seeing what works and what doesn't work. And in that process of honing, we got to a pretty high click-through rate. We took a big effort to get onto mobile. I can describe that a little bit more, but just for the purpose of this story, we did a lot of work to get onto mobile, and with the game now on mobile, we can actually see the conversion rate. And so our customer acquisition cost is on the order of 20 cents, and much cheaper than even that, in places like India, for example. And so that's, I mean, that's somewhere between a tenth and a 30th of what you normally expect to pay for a customer acquisition cost. And it's very indicative of the demand for this type of interaction. The idea that you can play and earn items and be having fun, but also have your effort move towards something, and then put real effort into it, where it is admittedly more work, but you're doing something that you can actually earn, some real money off of, fiat money. um, that's, I think, a big part of that is popular, or that is needed, is why we were able to get the customer acquisition cost down so much. So you combine the idea of something that clearly has a lot of demand in the world with big high-end content, proven content. Again, I think we could just really start growing things from here. So I'm excited about where we are. I'm more optimistic about where we are than I've ever been before.
Absolutely, yeah, and I'm really excited to sort of be on that journey with you guys too. So I might just take a quick break there to tell anyone that we are doing a bit of a live AMA here. If you do have any questions or clarifications that Tom's talking about, you're welcome to drop them into the Fias Telegram channel, and we will get to them. So we'll get to the big reveal in a moment. And I also just wanted to do a bit of a mention that the Fias public sale. So Fias is the token that's going to be powering this whole digital financial ecosystem where all these users are going to be coming in and interacting and earning and owning. So that sale starts on in about 15 hours or so on the DevvE launchpad. So if you're interested in this, head on over to there and stake your DevvE, and you can be part of that system too. And so I guess I'll follow up sort of back to what you were saying there before. You've also obviously just done another AMA with Randy. Shout out to you, Randy. I did have a chance to tune into that, and you did a fantastic job. So we don't want to cover too much about onto the AAA publishers and that, and get into the weeds of that, because I think you did that absolutely perfect, and we couldn't add anything else there. But we did have a question from Lunar Eclipse, who's been in the community for a while, and you have touched on a lot of what he's asked in Telegram. So can you give a timeline of AAAs that will be introduced into Nysperience? Can you give a rough example of AAA games which can be bought into LitCraft? Will they be playable on phones? And I think this question here that you answered really well already was, how will we be creating more demand, exposure, adoption for LitCraft?
Yeah. So I think there is the opportunity to license higher end PC games, but the place where I feel like we've been getting good early traction and games to license is mobile games, and I think that is actually a really good place to focus on early. So again, the games that we're looking to license, and again, no promises because I don't want to overstate it, but I think there's good potential to close on these types of games. There's a set of 6 games that again have had 400 million downloads, and so that's one of the things I'm most excited on the licensing side of things. We also just signed a LOI on another casual game that is part of a brand that has had over 250 million downloads. So another kind of well-known casual game, and they licensed, or we signed an LOI to license it to move it over to a play to own game. So I think the overall answer to your question, how do you kind of expand the user base? It's those two things we just talked about. One is this advertising model where we can get our user acquisition cost, have gotten our user acquisition costs so low that can drive a lot of installed base and monthly active users and that kind of thing. And then additional content. And the additional content, I'll also point out, it's not so easy to do, right? It was again, I don't know others in the world who have done that type of thing that I've done. I don't know others that have done that, that done what I've done on the licensing side before. When I was talking to the mobile publisher, they kept asking questions, and I kept kind of saying, well, this is what we did, before. And so I had a lot of experience with it. I knew the right thing to say for all the questions. And they even said several times, yeah, that's the right answer, like that makes us feel better, and so there's plenty of pitfalls. Again, it took me 2 years to develop this licensing model and the technology. Steve mentioned this, but to start bringing on large scale games and integrating with them and integrating with multiple games over time, it's very you need a blockchain that's high speed, high throughput, cost effective, and easy to integrate. So those 4 characteristics, I would argue DevvX is the only blockchain that really matches all those characteristics. So the big technical side that you need, and then the big licensing side, we're very unique in our ability to do that. I think that's going to drive the user base as well. So I think that's kind of the heart of the what answers that question.
Yeah, I think you do that very thoroughly. So that covers most of sort of Luna's question there. I will sort of add on also on the Forever side of things. We also have our own separate campaigns going on for user acquisition that's separate to what Tom's doing. So we do have a confirmed partnership that we do expect to bring a chunk of more users into the ecosystem. And so I'd say stay tuned for more on that very soon. But that's also a very sort of highly replicable model that we can then take and do again and again and again. So
yeah, I'm excited about what Forever's been doing there as well. That's really great.
Yeah, awesome. So and now I'll sort of the bit of the elephant in the room at the end of your question there, Luna, and to cover everyone's questions around the Fias token sale. So I'm not going to comment on any other launch pads going on at the moment. But I will say, the question is, are we happy with how the sale is going? And I would say the sale hasn't started yet. So our sale for Fias really starts in about 15 hours on the DevvE Launchpad. So when it comes to the private 2 sale, the original conditions were set for the sales of the private 2 when the blockchain space of the market was in a very, very different state. So what we've done now is we've gone in and we've revised the tokenomics, we've revised the vesting, all in a manner that now reflects like a lot of the other sales that are out in the public market too. So we are very confident in the public sale moving forward on the DevvE Launchpad, and that's where we imagine most of the users are going to be, right? Because that's where our concentrated user base who understands DevvE, what we're building here, they're all come from the DevvE Launchpad side of things. So and regardless what happens with the sale as well, Fias, as you can tell here talking with Tom, the token is ready. The Nysperience is one of the biggest and scalable Web3 games that is out there, and we are confident in our ability with the LitCraft ecosystem to build on this foundation that's already been set. So we're really excited about what's moving forward, regardless what happens with the sale. So
yeah, the sale isn't on the LitCraft and DevvE side of things. The sale isn't critical, right? So I agree with everything you just said, but the licensing, the development of the interactions in Glassblock, transferring Web3 to Web2 assets, all of the progress with the DFE, all of that's happening anyways. So
absolutely. Yep. Yeah, and like so the way that we look at any other parties that we're engaging with as well is it's we frame it in terms of a business enablement tool. So using the DevvX blockchain is enabling the businesses in the gaming industry to create these new monetization models for them. So that's powerful enough in itself to move forward with. So let's move forward with some of the other questions. You did mention Glassblock before. So it's very important, obviously, if you have this play-to-earn ecosystem where people are creating value that they can obviously buy, sell, and trade all of that value. You've just introduced the lit market into the game. So can you run us through a bit the lit market and how that works in context with Glassblock as well?
Sure. So one of the things I was finding is that there was kind of the game ecosystem, and then you can craft items all the way up to kind of valuable items and valuable NFTs, and then sell them on Glassblock. And so and then you use those, like for example, you can craft lit pets, and then you can play with lit pets in several games in Nysperience. And so one of the things though that I was finding is that there wasn't as tight a connection, especially on the businesses, the virtual businesses that we're creating, with the pricing, that was happening on Glassblock. And so what we did is we created a in-game marketplace where you could use the in-game currency called heptals and more easily kind of trade items. And then that gives us the ability also to then have kind of a set price and use that price in the business calculations. And it's interesting. I was doing research for DevExchange, for another of the kind of bigger projects that we're looking at, and some of the things that Ray's looking at in the Forever Association. But I was just understanding the technology underlying those better, and I came across liquidity pools and was looking at how those work, and they're pretty simple. It's not a super complex concept, but it's a compelling concept. So all of the lit market, sales are just liquidity pools, like you would get on a decentralized exchange like Uniswap, for example. And so that's a pretty cool concept because it's true supply and demand on a lot of the assets. The other thing though is going back it just a little further. When I described Glassblock, I think one of the most important things we've been doing on Glassblock is building a Web 2 to Web 3 bridge. And again, this is another of these categories, one of these bigger items that I think moves the needle, that I think really more and more people are going to find very exciting. So the reason that we needed to build that is to build an application that worked with Apple's terms and conditions. Now, we wanted to get on mobile. You can't be on mobile without being on Apple and having an iOS version. And Apple does not allow NFTs to be used in games. They allow like NFT viewers, that kind of thing, but you can't have functionality associated with an NFT. So what we had to do is re-architect our system and make it where things are running on a traditional server. But this is a play to own game, so you need to have it where it's got decentralized ownership, and people really own their assets. So how do you mesh those two concepts? And so we spent a year and a half doing this, and then it finished up just a few months ago. And so we have it now where you can play with Nysperience, have all the assets that satisfy Apple's terms and conditions, on a traditional server. But with the push of a button, you can go into Glassblock and well, actually, so if it's okay with you, Steve, why don't I
Yep.
even show that? Yeah.
Absolutely. We're going to do
So
show and tell next. So perfect time, perfect segue.
okay, so that's a good segue into it, as you say. So here, let me share my screen. Okay, so share.
The lit market to me, so I've only had a chance to experiment around, but it really reminds me of the old. I don't know if you ever played Age of Empires 2, when you have the market there and you're trying to trade resources. It really reminded me of that, a bit of nostalgia.
Yeah, right. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so you can go to glassblock.io, and then I'm going to log into my DevvX wallet. Okay, so now you're in the DevvX wallet. So this is our wallet application for DevvX. You can see all of your assets. You can see the DevvX assets and the LitCraft assets. Um, and then you can see, history. We've got a blockchain explorer tool as well that you can put, a transaction in, just like you would on Etherscan, and then and then see details on the transaction. So you can go into inventory, for example. And so here you have your blockchain inventory, and then here you have a game inventory. And one thing I'll point out is you could have, a dozen or 100 games here. And so what we've really created is a Web 2 to Web 3 bridge. And that's, you think about that at its most basic level. That's why that's such a powerful concept. Move anything from Web 2 to Web 3 and back, easily. So you go into LitCraft and you see your inventory. And so just grab like a simple token like grass, for example. And so what you could do is say send to blockchain. And if we had a bunch of other games, which we expect to, in the future, you could send it to another game. So you could, for example, craft an engine in LitCraft Nysperience using the crafting table, and collected using tokens collected from a variety of different games, including independent games that we licensed, for example. Craft those all together, craft an engine, transfer the engine to the blockchain, and then from the blockchain transfer the engine back down to the car game, for example. So you can that's why this is why I'm so excited about this. Is really kind of, again, a fundamental just technological innovation of a
Can I
Web
ask
two
a
to Web
question?
a generic Web 2 to Web 3 bridge.
Can I ask sort of a question on that idea of, let's say, bringing the engine from Experience to, Gran Turismo or anything like that? So how does that work in terms of, let's say, you've got the data of the NFT, which has the ownership, but how does that work on a representation side of things? So obviously, if you bring an item, let's say, like from a 2D platformer into a 3D UE5, the way that the games are going to represent those NFTs or those items of value is going to be different, because obviously the games are different in design. How will that sort of work in that sort of instance? To say something from
Yeah.
this.
From the game's point of view, I mean, this, fundamentally, games rely on some type of database, right? And so they have all their assets listed internally in the code. It might be like a C# list or whatever. But you have kind of a list of your assets, your items, your inventory, or car parts that you've accumulated over time, or FPS skins, for your weapons, things like that. And so then, that's just kind of a simple representation, and then the game can take that simple representation and then actually show the 3D graphics around it. So in the case of like a car engine that you're crafting in Experience to use in a AAA game, the car engine would be kind of a simple representation. This plus this plus this plus this plus this, put those together, you get a car engine. And maybe with a little bit of a lucky roll, it's got like a little bit higher end, type of value. Then that's just, from the car's point of view, the car game's point of view, just an NFT that's data. But when it recognizes that data, then it says, all right, well, this engine with this ID, has these characteristics, and it's up to the individual games. So you do have to program the games to understand, if you're moving things between games, of course. But this is the technology to be able to move stuff. And once you have those representations, a lot of times it's pretty straightforward, because we could take an existing car game, for example, look at the representations it's already using, again, on a licensed game, and then we could say, here's how you craft those items so that when they shift up to the blockchain and the shift back down to the car game matches with what the car game is already seen for different components, that kind of thing. So people probably saw in the background, you take some grass and then you transfer it. So again, you send to blockchain, just takes a few seconds. There's actually a very complex kind of set of things happening, in between. But then you go back up to inventory. Now I go into my DevvX wallet and I type in, grass, and there's the 10 grass that I just sent. And I can take that, and now I can sell it on glass blocks. I can say I want to sell it, and sell it for, and I can tell it when I'm selling it, describe to the system that I only want to sell it for US dollars, or I can sell it for the in-game currency, that kind of thing. I can transfer it to somebody else if I know a user's name, or I can send it, I'll just send it back to the game. So we'll send all of the grass back to the game. And again, this could be any game that you start interfacing into this digital financial ecosystem. One of the big kind of upcoming things that we're looking at is an application called LitLegion, and LitLegion will let people do kind of real world activities and earn those kinds of tokens. So you could transfer from playing kind of a traditional mobile game into back and forth and doing kind of real world tasks as well. And I'm excited about what LitLegion is going to be too. So now you can see there's nothing listed as grass. And then I go inventory, go back into LitCraft Nysperience, put in grass, and I'm back at my amount. So that's kind of the Web 2 to Web 3 bridge that we've created, and that's a really powerful, compelling bit of technology.
So I think you've actually answered a lot. We did have a question from Massey, who's been quite a good contributor. He's got some great opinions about blockchain. It's really nice to hear him speak, and that sort of covers a lot of what he was asking about. How close are we seeing to asset portability? Well, you just showed it. Like it's literally the case of a click.
And it's working. Right?
It's funny to say that the transfer of value is probably almost the low hanging fruit when it comes to the blockchain space, because this is what people have been trying to solve for decades now. And that was it there. You just saw it really quickly. So that's really.
I saw Massey's question earlier on today when you were kind of asking for questions on the Telegram group. So one bit of perspective for everybody is Massey has been one of our best community members for almost the longest time. And in the very early days, so we're going back all the way to 2018, he found insights that was quicker and to the point more than most anybody else. That I mean, almost the best person I've interacted with at finding those quick insights. Actually, Steve is also one of those people in that same category, and it's neat that he started out as a community member and have gotten him onto the team. And so when Massey asked that, I was like, good job. That's awesome you're asking that, because you're asking an important question, and he hones in on stuff that's important early, and he did it exactly there. It's such an important concept, and I've shown it a couple other times, and I people haven't really I think embraced the importance of it yet. But to me, put simply, a Web 2 to Web 3 bridge, through an easy to use RESTful API. I mean, there's so many just massive things you can do with that. It's really an important technology. So
not just on the gaming side of things, obviously everywhere for the digital financial ecosystem, the way they can integrate into the real world and everything. I think it's huge too.
Totally. One of the things just along those lines that we were looking at doing, for example, is I spent some money doing an ocean cleanup project where they took literally tons of plastics out of the ocean, and I want to represent that plastic removal as tokens, and then people can buy those tokens. And then if we issue another set, then people could buy those tokens. I could use the money we get from selling them, pay that group to do more plastics cleanup, and so on, right? And actually do something that's pretty cool. We're literally moving tons of plastics out of the oceans, with a really neat group called Oceans Integrity. So you could take those plastics tokens, move them into the blockchain, then move them down into one of the games, then craft with them. And when you spend some money to buy some plastic removal tokens, you'd be doing a portion of actually funding real physical change in the world, but also getting items that you can then craft other items with. So it's a good example of kind of of taking a disparate type of token and moving it back and forth into a completely different game. So
Yeah, and doing real well good at the same time. So that's fantastic.
yeah,
Okay,
right.
so obviously we're a bit I'm conscious of the time at the moment. So there is one important question that we got from, or while we're doing shout outs to all the OGs, Alien, he's asked in, this is a really important one I think that we should get to before, right, and then we'll get into the demonstration soon after. So this is, can you give us a rundown of how guilds work? Examples of what an experienced player participation may look like, and will filling a niche for your guild be particularly helpful? And what benefits might guilds offer to members? So, and obviously, I'll just preface that guilds are one of the main utilities of the Fias token as well.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, so guilds is a very important upcoming piece of the overall digital financial ecosystem. And it ties in with our partnership with Forever as well. So the general idea is that you'll be able to create guilds, like in a lot of other applications, groups, just more generically, that you have shared interests, right? So you could be a group of artists, or you like soccer, football, whatever it is that you have shared interests with other people, can create a guild around it and kind of interact with those people. So the baseline, you have kind of those guilds, and the most basic guild, that's just kind of shared interests, is just a bronze guild. But then if you start getting up, higher level guilds, silver, gold, up to diamond guilds, then with those you actually earn more in the game. And so you, for example, you go in and you play solitaire, and if you complete a solitaire round, then you get Legiscent. And Legiscent is an important token for people that are creating businesses. If you're in a guild and you earn Legiscent, then you'll get a percentage increase. And again, it's higher with the higher level guilds, but you'll get a percentage increase on what you're earning. And the mechanic that we're planning to use is another token that is basically comparable to Heptals, but that token will be um, matched up with the value of the Legiscent, for example, that you get. So let's say your bonus is 30%, and you would earn 10 Legiscent. You would earn 3 Legiscent worth of Heptals. And if Legiscent was the same value as Heptals, then you get 3 of this intermediary token. And then at a set time in the future, then you exchange those back for Heptals. So fun, so some of the complex details aside, like basically just as you play, you just earn extra Heptals, and then you kind of cash them in at different time periods. And so the thing that I think kind of ties the ecosystem together and ties it in with Fias, and again, this is, I think, a really clever part of the overall design, is that in order to have a guild, you have to have a treasury of Fias. And so the idea that you have guilds and a treasury of Fias, and therefore a lot of kind of the guild uh, management is really going to be more on the Forever side of things, and the guild interactions is more on the Forever side of things. You still end up having Fias driving community and ecosystem, and so it's kind of a partnership. Actually, this is a good analogy, I think. Is I've used this, describing it to a few other people, is if you have a publisher that makes a good game, and then you have an esports company, they partner. So in this analogy, LitCraft is the publisher and the esports company is Forever. So if you have an esports company working with a publisher, they're both very incentivized, for things to grow. And an esports publisher might have tournaments and contests, and Forever might have tournaments and contests as well for LitCraft stuff. But you can interact on that kind of forever side of things with the Fiat token. And so having the Fiat token built into guilds kind of creates this circular growth where it creates more interest, more people can bring in guilds. A lot of what grew Axie Infinity, with scholarships. So you could have, for example, guild members pay for lit passes, which is another way to earn more. And so then that drives more Fios use, drives more users, which means there's going to be more demand for guilds, and you get this virtuous spiral. So I'm really happy with where everything has landed on the overall guild and Fios side of things. I'm excited about how it's been coming together.
Yeah, and also that sounds like it's a great opportunity to bring in maybe maybe the decentralized aspects of having a cryptocurrency. If you have guilds, would you be able to use fiat within them as a way, as perhaps rather than one person creating a guild? Could you have maybe like a DAO where you have a group of people that use fiat token as a governance model to be able to make decisions within their own guild?
Yeah, I think that's a great concept. So that's the general idea, is that a guild has a treasury.
Mhm.
And so one of the things I think will happen is we've got a really amazing set of core players, in Nysperience right now. And I love all the guys and girls in the Nysperience, in the LitCraft channel. So I think, and so a lot of people I consider my friends, right? Including you, as we kind of got to know each other, and then again, we've gotten you started more working. But I love my interactions with you, just even on the community side of things. Alien, is another one. He's just a great fellow. His girlfriend is a big player and has some good high scores and stuff too. So she's a neat community member, and just lots of great community members. So I almost think some of our core community members that really have spent years at this point learning the ins and outs of the game and really kind of driving their longer term future in the game ecosystem are probably going to get together and build some guilds together, is my guess. So that'd be neat to see happen.
Yeah, and sort of a bit of behind the scenes, all the LitCraft players that they do know each other. So everyone's talking, everyone's sharing already. So it already feels like a lot of the players are already part of a guild. It's just not official yet, I guess.
Yeah, great.
Cool. So all right, how about we move on to the big source here, Tom? I think we've put people on the hook long enough. Can you show us some of the exciting upcoming features that are going to be included into Nysperience?
Yeah. So in general, in Nysperience here, let me start one thing up real quick. Okay, so in general, in Nysperience, it's a pretty massive game already. Um, okay, and then now let me share my screen now that I have that up. Okay, so here's my screen. You're able to see it, Steve?
Mm-hmm. Good to go.
Okay, here I'm gonna turn these down while I'm doing this. Okay, so this is just the main experience game, and so one of the things that you can do is go through and mine. For those of you who have played, you probably spend a lot of time doing this. And so you have mining, you have the businesses section where you can build different kinds of businesses. You can build like a farming business or a mining business. Um, Oh, seems like maybe something went wrong there. Let's try this. Um, okay, so in addition to kind of that main mining game, um, yeah, it seems like it maybe got into a weird state. Maybe because I'm presenting. Um, and then sometimes if you try to log in too fast, it doesn't let you log in. Let me try once more.
I'm assuming you're
Okay.
probably on a test build that's got all these extra features that isn't probably a production release just yet.
Yeah, yeah, you run into a bit of that
Mhm.
too. Okay, so you've got kind of the main mining game, and then you've got businesses, but then we've got all of these individual games, and some of these are small, but some of them are really robust games that you could spend hundreds of hours just on a single game. Like the Heptone Battle is a very robust strategy card battler, and then there's some other games that are kind of small but fun, like the pickaxe game. There's a lot of people that spend a lot of hours, playing the pickaxe game. And so any of these particular games, and including kind of traditional games like solitaire, Sudoku, this mental words is kind of a traditional, just word game. And I'll even show it. So you can come in and you can say, RATE, ETE, rat, gate. Okay, so there, and then now you have this, so it's maybe get, yeah, that kind of thing. And so you
I
can
don't
go
want a
through and
backseat
play this.
game. Don't want a
Yeah,
backseat
right.
yet.
Yeah, right. That's totally where you want to say, try
Yeah,
this.
oh, this one, it's
Um,
this word.
yeah, so you play through that and you earn points. And so this is kind of the main game. And again, you can spend hundreds of hours at this point, playing the various games, including some of them that are very deep. So we've got an upcoming expansion, and this is some of the first times I've shown it. So I've been excited to kind of show people. So we've got this upcoming expansion where you have a 3D world, and it's an RPG. So you go on quests and adventures and interact with NPCs. And so unlike other RPGs, we're kind of finding our niche in things. I don't have a $10 million budget to build a massive MMO RPG type of game, but we're like a lot of this. We're building an RPG that I think is going to be particularly compelling with everything that is our strengths, and so it's an RPG focused and built on the digital financial ecosystem. So, for example, when you go and you interact with a NPC, they tell you to go on a quest, you go collect some things, come back to the NPC, finish your quest, they send you on another one, then they send you to a new NPC. So a lot of that's the same mechanics, of a lot of RPGs out there. But after you've, gone through a story arc, maybe you have done 10 quests with a particular NPC. At that point, what you've done is you've unlocked the NPC as kind of a financial mechanism in the game. So for example, you do a bunch of quests, and then the NPC says, "Hey, thanks for doing that for me. I owe you a favor. Anytime you want, bring these. I can always use fish, that you fish for in the lake. Anytime you bring that to me, I'll give you some ale. I'm just making it up, right? So you unlock NPCs, and NPCs kind of almost become little mini crafting tables. This is kind of one way to think about it. But then we've got this one land called Litu, and Litu is a financial hub for all of these concepts. And so this is just kind of a simple kind of artistic rendering of it. And the overall lit land is as big as the LitCraft game is already. It's a massive increase. It's probably more than double the content. And so in Lit2, you might come through, and you can come in and get a farming land. You'll be able to buy these lands with the current Nysperience lands that people have already bought. So you'll be able to get one of these locations or one of these businesses. So we'll have a kind of a thing where people can come in and grab them. And then you have these warehouses. Warehouses are again kind of under the hood liquidity pools, that set supply and demand. So here's a bunch of different warehouses for different types of things. There's processors, which are also, you could think of them kind of as crafting tables, like you bring different components in, and so you take Vaprant, which is a farming item, and then you can convert it into a bag of Vaprant, and then a bag of Vaprant has a liquidity pool. And then we've got a bunch of farming lands and items. We've got a bunch of mining lands and items, and then we've got a bunch of business lands and items. And the 3D models and the 3D world that you can come in and run around and get into these is almost done. We've almost got all of the different powers that you can build up on your character. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's really neat, how it's been coming together. And
Well,
then and then we've got what's that?
so just a couple of questions there, because that was a lot of ground there. There's so much there to sort of unpack. Just is Lit2 going to be a synchronous environment? Is that where all users are going to be able to engage together in one universal land?
It's kind of like a financial MMO,
Yeah,
you
okay.
know. So you won't run around in the same location with everybody right at first. I
Mhm.
expect we'll even get, you know, where you can it's an actual MMO where people can run
Mhm.
around together. But all the financial interactions, that is really going to be an MMO.
Sure.
Um,
And then sort
and
of
so go ahead.
and also one thing I sort of picked up on when you were talking about quest lines and that it really almost sounds like it's your uh, that's something that could be replaced in the future by UGC, like getting rather than having the NPCs do these quest lines, you could actually have real users, whether they're through Legion or that actually have quests that they need that you go and solve for people, or whether they're a business that needs a specific kind of business item. You could also, yeah, bring that a whole element of UGC to that too.
Right. Well, that's a lot of what Lit Legion is going to be, and so we could have people put out their own quests in Lit Legion. Lit Legion also is going to have, you know, daily quests, you know, that go across all the different games. You know, so there's tons more content coming in Lit Legion as well. I don't have as much to show about that, but that's also an equally large kind of expansion in content. So there's some really, as big as the game is, there's some really big things coming up that we've spent years building, and they're just about to, you know, come out now. So here you can come in and run around in this, you know, this 3D environment. You can come up to this person that, you know, is already unlocked, and then this person is kind of like a little mini crafting table. And so if you want to build, you know, water creos, you can get 5 Dravent seeds and a wand 8, and then you know, give those to her, and then she'll give you the 50 creos of water. So that's what I was saying. Sometimes you might go through and do, you know, these tasks, you know, to start. One of the things that we've got, actually, here, I'll just let me cut out and restart it.
I think
That'll be
that's
quicker
also
to get
that
back
was a
to
little leak there.
the
It's the
video.
first time I've seen an Ella disc as well, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, I was going to show
Yeah,
you. I was
yeah.
going to show you the. So this is early. We've got a version that looks better even now, in a different, you know, branch in the source code repository, um, but right now we've got kind of some of the basics of it. So you come in and um, so we've got an initial power, and then this is almost like the Heptone battle. Like you've got different kinds of powers, like a fireball or lightning strike that comes out, you know, that kind of thing. You've got attacks, which are different kinds of weapons, defense, which you have shields. So here's, you know, the Ella disc being dropped into the shield. So I could take a different type of Ella disc. I guess I gotta take that guy back. I could take a different type of Ella disc, you know. So if you have these in your inventory and you can craft these things, Ella disc Ultrim is the fastest. So I'm going to leave that in there. Different types of ammunition for your guns, and then you got different powers. And the powers, I'll save a lot of this detail for a different time. But there's a whole bunch of powers that, again, you can jump higher, fly around, teleport. You know, have lots of different battle abilities. Have potions, increase kind of your abilities in trades, you know, things like that. So all of that's pretty compelling. We've got a whole bunch of skins too. We've got like a gazillion different types of, you know, bodies and things that you can have. You know, just kind of fun stuff. Um, so here I'll get the Elf Knight is where I land. Um, so we've got kind of this customization, you know, system, and then there's probably a good 20 lands now, and a lot of them are really pretty big. So there's really a lot of, you know, content. We've got hundreds of quests at this point, and then this is kind of the first time I think I'm going to show the space game as well. The space game I'm really excited about. So the space games over here kind of through this
Can I just ask for
green
one
portal.
question that you said, like you just showed all the guns and weapons, and so are you talking about like perhaps something if people think of maybe Warcraft, where the quest is okay, can you go and kill 20 zombies, that kind of thing? Is that the thing
Yep.
you'll be doing with those guns?
Yeah, that would be a quest, or take something to somebody else,
Mhm.
or, you know, all the usual kind of RPG stuff. One of the biggest story arcs we have, you know, probably a few hundred quests just across 10 story arcs. That's the history of the lit,
Mhm.
you know. And so that one I'm actually personally excited about. Like, you know, we brainstormed and we worked on it for a good like 5 months, you know, thinking through and getting all of the history of the lit. like what so again, LitCraft has a lot of lore, more than I should go through right now, but it has a lot of lore, and it's pretty consistent. I would say it's very well thought out. It's got decades of thinking, hundreds and hundreds of pages. But we went through and created a storyline where you go to a mage called Nil, and Nil sends you on a quest back in time because there's creatures that are affecting the timeline. You got to go back and fix the timeline, right? And so it's a way to play the game and learn the history of the lit. So it's that one's pretty neat too. So you can customize your ship. In the space shooter side of things, we've got a bunch of different modules with different weapons. We've got different weapons, scanning tools, mining tools, shields, engine drives, all that kind of thing. And then you can fly out, and so you can speed up and slow down. There's the spaceport that we just came out of. You can actually fly down to Earth and land on a city on Earth. Here, let's go into the this solar system called Duster. So this one's pretty neat because it's one of the main ones. So you can land on all the different star systems, solar systems have planets, and you can land on the planets. And then this one, you can come in and you can go through all these different gateways to go to different solar systems. There's a bunch of them, including fighting. Let's go land on this spaceport over here. And you can upgrade and get a faster ship. So you can tell it takes a little while because this is one of the most basic ships. Here you can see how you can fire. It's got really nice controls, so it's actually a pretty fun. Like you can come up and all fly around through some of our asteroids on the way over to the.
I do find that when it comes to space games, controls are very, very important. That obviously when you don't have the ups or downs, everybody has their own system of creating controls in space games. It looks nice and easy to use, that's for sure.
This game started with just a simple kind of demo that was all the controls. I was like, I love these controls, and so we built a whole game around it. So then you come in and you land on the space station, and again, this is where you do quests, and then there's a whole ecosystem, financial ecosystem specific to the quests also. So you can there's all these different rooms in here. People walking around. Here's kind of a cool room that you can run around in. So it's a very expansive world, but again, similar to my iceberg analogy, you've got the RPG, that's kind of the tip of the iceberg. Underneath that is all of the financial ecosystem. So there's lots of gameplay in doing quests, but there's a lot more gameplay in really building your own kind of financial businesses, where you take your time. And one of the things you could do is, if you like the space battling, you can go in and fight, and earn. If you like mining, which is pretty compelling, like there's specific mining lands, and some people really, I enjoy that, right, in space games. So go out and go and scan an asteroid, and every once in a while you come across one that has really rare, valuable components in it, and they're not just rare, valuable components in a space game. They're rare, valuable components in the digital financial ecosystem that other people need to do what they're doing in their business or in their crafting or whatever. So that's a quick kind of first sneak peek at the Litland universe that we've been getting going.
Saw it here first, everyone. So just one question I had, sort of as a LitCraft player. The mining that happens in this space game, are you imagining that to be similar to how the mining happens in the main Litland, where you sort of need to reset that, or is it something that sort of generates over time? How does that work?
It's different than anything else in Nysperience, right? So it's its own game and own kind of interactions. So what you do is here, I'll show you. Let's see. So as you said, some of these versions that I have are the versions that I'm not positive this is going to work, but I think it will. It's been working in the past. I asked the guys to fix a couple things that I saw specifically were little bit of an issue, um, even for this demo. But I mean, you can see it's coming along pretty well. So there's still it
Absolutely.
still needs a little bit of polish, but it's coming along. I asked them to fix the um, make it for sure I could use these Ella discs so that you don't have to watch me just run through a forest just to get going. Okay, so I'm gonna fly my spaceship over to um, one of the mining lands, one of the mining systems. Okay, all right. So same thing. We'll come over to Duster, the Duster system, and then within the Duster system, let's see.
And I'm
Those
assuming
pirate.
as well that all the the planes that you're flying at the moment, they're all craftable as well. So you would go
Yeah,
use materials that you take out the ground, and you would find parts of the engines and put them all um, to
yeah,
create one of these.
yeah, and tons of upgrades on the ships,
Mhm.
and um, actually the Oso 9, I love the planet on the planet that you run around in. It's got like such kind of cool. Um, okay, so I'm trying to see which one is a good Void Haven. Okay, I think Haven has mining. It might be. I'm trying to remember which one is kind of higher level. Yeah, this one I think I'm going to get killed too quick because I don't have a good enough ship.
So
But
there's
what you
collision
could,
on your ship, obviously.
yeah, is collision on the ship. So what I can do is, oh jeez, maybe hide behind these guys so I can show this real quick maybe. Um, so here's the mining beam. Okay, here's the scanning. Okay, so here you come in and you scan this, and then oh geez, let's see if I can fight these guys a little bit. Oh, I got the wrong
No
weapon.
pressure.
Oh,
Everyone's just
and then
watching
I'm
you, Tom.
then
No
I'm dead.
pressure.
Yeah. Okay. So I went into one of the more difficult levels. So, if you and if you get an upgraded ship that can fight better, fight your way, kill a few of the guys, then mine a bit and get the more valuable items because you're getting in the tougher area. Um, yeah. So here I'll show you some of the. Here, I'm gonna again. I don't have good missile defense yet, so I'm gonna try to hide a little bit from missiles until. Ah, all right.
And you're flying around with just WASD? Is that the keyboard controls?
Yeah, I'm flying with the mouse.
Mhm.
Oh, I think he died when he hit me. Yeah, so you get a good feel for it. So again, it's yeah. So the missiles are hard
I would
on
just
you when you
love
don't have missile.
to drop 100 players into one of these things and put like a nice NFT in the middle and do a bit of an extraction game. How cool would that be? A big
Yeah, there's so
PvP
many
mode.
kind of fun
Yeah.
things we can do in this, and you'll do things where you have to you'll do things where you have to like go through um uh, quests like save somebody, fight your way, to get them, and things like that. So anyways, that's a little bit more detail on the space shooter where you can mine and fight and everything. So
Oh, that's
yeah,
brilliant,
it's gonna
Tom.
be a fun game.
Yeah. Well, thanks. Look, I'm mindful of the time. We have already gone about 15 minutes over time here because there's just so much to get to every time we talk. So any of the
Yeah, there's
questions?
so many things I wanted to describe that I didn't get a chance to. But again, high level, yeah, I think the main thing to take away from, other than kind of the aspects of the game that are fun, is we've got this licensing stuff, coming up. I think that could just really drive things, create lots of new users, lots more awareness around DevvX and DevvE. Lead to utility where DevvE is used as a payment mechanism for all these types of things. I love the kind of finally a transition a little bit in the the mentality around regulation because we're a U.S. company, so it seems like that's starting to shift, and that'll make it more feasible to have kind of a payment system. You understand what the rules are and just follow the rules, So it's nice to have some of that clarity. And then we've got our advertising costs. down to such a level, I think we can really start growing. And the combination of bringing in licenses, those user bases, new people that want to play those games, the customer acquisition cost, all that together starts to drive more and more players. And more players means even more players want to come in because you get more and more of a thriving economy. And we've already, for the past 3 years, have been putting all the foundation for this thriving economy. So again, I'm as excited as I've ever been, kind of about where we're going. I think really the sky's the limit for where we are.
Look, I couldn't agree with you more. And it's not just Nysperience as a game; it's the whole ecosystem that goes around it. It's everything to do with DevvE, Fias, and it all combines together in a much bigger picture than what people might realize at this stage. But when that all starts to come to fruition, it's going to, I think, be one of the most expansive blockchain ecosystems in the space at this stage.
Yeah, yep,
All
totally.
right. Well, Tom, thank you for your time. Any final words before we sign off?
No, yeah, again, thanks for all you and the team have been doing. You guys are awesome. And a little bit of a shout out to the community. We mentioned them, a few times. Um, our community is awesome, and they're also part of the foundation that we're going to build off of. So
Yeah,
love all the guys and girls being part of the digital financial ecosystem and growing with us. So
yeah, and obviously we just ran a Zilli campaign recently, and all the familiar names that we know, we know all of you, so we do see you. We're like, oh, good on him, good on him. I'm secretly happy that was a Rufus and Baskel both shared the first prize for that. So and there's a ton more out there that we haven't mentioned by name as well, but we do know you, we do know your names as well. So
yep, yeah.
all right,
All
everybody,
right, well, good
that's
stuff.
us. All right, have a good night, everybody.
All right, thank you.